Hey first grade friends, it's Mrs. Gummo here again. I hope you enjoyed the first chapter of Upstairs Mouse, Downstairs Mole. We've already started to get a good idea about some of the things that Mouse and Mole like to do. Today as I'm reading, I want you to think more about that. What else are we learning about Mole and Mouse? And also, we're going to do some predicting today, so I want you to be thinking about what might happen next and why. And is there new trouble that Mouse and Mole get into in the next chapter? To get prepared for reading today, I took out some sticky notes so I can mark some pages in my book to do some thinking about. So I have one with a question mark to think about a question I might have. A blank one, just in case I'm not sure quite what I want to mark there. And I made a star on one, just so that it could help me organize my thinking when I talk about it after. If you don't have sticky notes, that's okay. You can get a piece of paper as you're reading on your own and stop and jot some of your thoughts down or questions down with the page number. So today we're going to read chapter 2 called The Invitations. I see Mouse right here putting something in the mail. I wonder what it's going to be. Mouse found an invitation in her mailbox. It was from her neighbor Mole. Dear Mouse, if you are not too busy, please come join me for lunch to celebrate our new garden. Your neighbor, Downstairs Mole. Oh, it wasn't Mouse mailing a letter. It was Mole sending one to Mouse, inviting her to lunch to celebrate their new garden. Around noon, there came tap, tap, tap at Mouse's door. Glad you could make it, said Mole. Please, come in. Mouse had picked dandelions for the occasion. For you, she said, until our flowers come up. Mouse looked around the room. My, but you keep a nice tidy hole, she squeaked. Thank you, said Mole. Oh yeah, look at Mouse. She's very impressed with Mole's hole and how clean and tidy it is. And there's Mole, so happy to see Mouse. It was damp inside Mole's hole. Mouse shivered. Mole kept his place rather dark, as bright lights hurt his eyes. Mouse bumped into the table as she sat down. I'm going to put my little sticky note with a question mark there, because I'm wondering here, thinking about why does bright light hurt Mole's eyes? And is it really so dark that Mouse bumped into the table? Let's read on. Mole poured a cup of tea for Mouse and one for himself. I wasn't sure how you liked your worms, said Mole, so I prepared them 2 ways. The ones on the right are lightly fried. The ones on the left have not been cooked. Dig in. Mouse took one of each to be polite. What do you think, first grade friends? Can you make a prediction right now? Think about, does Mouse really like to eat the same thing that Mole does? Worms? Mole filled his plate. He was starved. Mole crunched, Mole slurped. Mouse poked the worms on her plate. The one on the left wiggled and squirmed. Mouse's stomach began to wiggle and squirm. The one on the right looked greenish gray. Mouse's face turned a greenish gray. The damp air made her sneeze. Achoo! Goodness, Mouse, said Mole, you do not look well. I don't feel so good, moaned Mouse. Please excuse me, Mole, but I think I had better go upstairs and lie down. She bumped into the door on her way out. I'm going to put my star sticky note here because I'm noticing that Mouse really isn't comfortable in Downstairs Mole's house. There are a few things I'm thinking about. It's dark, but why is Mouse sneezing? And I wonder if it's the food that's making her not feel so good. That evening, Mole found an invitation in his mailbox. Dear Mole, I'm feeling much better. Please join me for dinner at 6 o'clock to continue our garden celebration. Your neighbor, Upstairs Mouse. At 6 o'clock, there came a tap, tap, tap at Mouse's door. Right on time, said Mouse. Please come in. You are looking much better, said Mole. Thank you, said Mouse. The evening sun poured through the windows in Mouse's house. Mole covered his eyes. He walked smack into the wall. I'm going to put another sticky note here, my friends. I'm noticing Mole is doing the same thing in Mouse's house, but now it's not because it's dark, it's because it's so bright. And we already learned about Mole that he doesn't like to keep it bright. Mole bumped into the table as he sat down. Bump. Mouse poured a cup of tea for Mole and one for herself. I was not sure which cheese you preferred, said Mouse, so I cut up 2 kinds. The one on the left is cheddar, and the one on the right is Limburger. Help yourself. To be polite, Mole took a thin slice of each. Mouse loaded her plate. She was famished. Mouse nibbled. Mouse gnawed. What do you think, first grade friends? Is Mole going to eat the cheese just like Mouse? I think you're right. I don't think so either. Mole's head still ached from walking into the wall. He began to wobble in his seat. The bright light over the table hurt his eyes. The strong odor of Limburger made his stomach flip-flop. Plop. Mole toppled right off the chair. Mercy, Mole, squeaked Mouse. Are you okay? Mole groaned. I feel a bit dizzy. Please excuse me, Mouse, but I think I had better go downstairs and rest. He bumped into the door on his way out. Oh boy, that's the end of that chapter. So we're going to stop there and do some thinking around this. Today, my challenge for you, after you read one of your stories, is to go and have a conversation with somebody about something you noticed or something you wondered. You might say something like I noticed here on this page that, and share your thinking. Or you might say something like, at this point in the book, I was wondering. I have this little picture here of things we've talked about this year in first grade about what makes a discussion about a book thoughtful. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And then you're going to go off and read today, and I want you to try that with somebody in your house. So I marked some of the pages here in this chapter because I know that marking certain pages or writing things down helps me remember my thinking as I was reading. So I remember that at the beginning, I thought maybe Mouse was mailing a letter to Mole. But in fact, Mole invited Mouse to his house downstairs first. Here on this page, I made a sticky note with a question mark. I was curious why Mouse was shivering and bumping into things. I'm thinking though, now that we've read the whole chapter, that Mole lives underground for a reason. He doesn't like the bright lights because his eyes are really, really squinty, so he can't see a lot. And so in his house, he's comfortable and he likes worms. But Mouse isn't so comfortable and she's bumping into everything. And then here on this page, I made another mark because I remember thinking, why is Mouse sneezing? But Mouse is so used to the sun being so bright and being upstairs in her house where there's fresh air that she's probably really cold. And I'm thinking she doesn't really like to eat worms like Mole does, so it's making her sick. I was sick thinking about the worms too. And then here, Mole gets an invitation to Mouse's house for dinner. But I noticed that the same thing happens to Mole, but in Mouse's house. That gets me thinking about how we're learning more about these characters. That they're neighbors and they get along really well and do good teamwork, but they like different things. I wonder what's going to happen in the next chapter when we read it, Kind, Good Neighbors. We'll do some thinking around that the next time we meet. Don't forget, it's your turn to go off and read independently. And while you're doing that, find some way that you can jot down your thoughts or maybe stop and think as you're reading. And that way, after you're done, you can share those thoughts with someone at home. Bye.